Morning, Kaden. Kaden, turn your mic on. Say hello, please. Are you there, dude? Let's try that. Oh, God. Check my speaker. I don't. All right. Yeah, me too.
Hi, Miss Jost.
Hi, Kaden. There you are. Okay. Yeah, give me a second, woman. I was trying to do something else. Could you like stop shouting directions out to me? Because it doesn't help me. Because he's happy about it and he's sharing that information. I know. I don't know why this. Is that coming? Where is that coming out of? Oh, it was yours. Okay. I was like, what? Okay, let's see. I want to get the different view. Let's see, maybe if I did that. Ah, there we go. Share screen with those guys. Those guys, share screen. I wish I could figure out how to get that little sidebar when the people aren't here. I mean, when nobody's zooming in. All right, let me take attendance out in there in Zoom world. It's Devin. Good morning, Devin. Good morning, Kaden A. I already said hi to him. Who else is here? Maddie and Carl. All right. Ding dong. Yeah, this is the thing. Okay, so this is the thing I kind of want to have handy. All right, so Kaden A is zooming. I'm just taking attendance and then we'll get started, guys. Devin is here, Maddie's here. Okay, so I'm gonna reduce that and then I'll go down the bottom. Oh my gosh, do we have to watch her drink like that? Okay, so good morning, everybody. All right, so a couple of, hold on. It is a good thing more people are coming. Okay, so Haley and Georgia. Ding dong. Haley. All right. Okay, so a couple of housekeeping things. Let me just go over to bulletin board. All right. You all know that you have a quote due on Friday. If you need to go back to the video for that under quotes and the example, the ones I've been reading are pretty good. The quote is the quote is here. It is also in classroom, obviously. Today, we're going to continue to talk about theme and fiction, and we're going to look at another story, and then we're going to try to do breakout rooms so that you can answer a bunch of questions. Make sense? Okay. So if you missed yesterday's class because you didn't zoom in, or if you were absent, you kind of missed the model for that. But we're going to have to do what we do. All right. So if I go to, oh, the other thing, Bella, could you stop like playing with your hair? Like it's either turn or turn your thing off because we're not at the beauty salon. I'm just making faces. All right. So those of you in the room, I gave you a copy of the Zoom Times document. Okay. And I know I talked about this yesterday, but just to go over it, all of your core classes will be Zooming on a daily basis during your class period time. So this is for you guys in homeroom. I made this little chart. Obviously the hard copy, you can't click the link. A couple of these, I think, well, anyway, they're in Classroom where I just was next to the Zoom thing. but I also put it, if you go to, let me get this out of the way. If you go to stream somewhere, there's also a post here about Zoom times, and it's the same thing. Okay, so that's easy. Somebody yesterday said, oh, I'm going to take the piece of paper, and they thought that they could like cut the edges off and then tape it to the top of their, yeah, it was Maddie that said this yesterday. I thought it was a good idea, and tape it to the top of her Chromebook. Okay, so that you have it when you're home, so you know what times to zoom in. And I think that makes sense. Another place to do it would be either in your agenda or in your binder would be a good place, but you should keep that handy. If you have a workspace at home, you might want to just keep it near your workspace, right? If you work in the same place when you're doing your schoolwork at home. Okay, so what are we doing today? Somebody either in the world, in person, or out in Zoom land, could you kindly tell me what the word theme means? We've been talking about it for 2 days. Let's see. I got people in the room. People in the room. I don't see anybody else with their hand up. Carl, what does theme mean? You got to turn your mic on so people can hear you. And where are your headphones? You need them so you can hear. Yeah. Zion, your headphones should be on so that you can hear in case somebody else. Huh? Honey, I said 3 times during homeroom, you're going to need headphones. Why are you waiting till the middle of the class to go get them? Go get them quickly. You are wasting everyone's time by doing that. That's why I said it so many times. I'm sorry, Carl, what does theme mean?
The message in the story.
The message of the story. And we figure out the theme by looking at what elements of fiction. Those were in the color blocks. Anybody remember one of them?
Characters.
Characters, you look at what the characters do, say, feel, think. What else do we look at? Val?
Plot and conflict.
Plot and conflict. And plot is, you know, you people out in Zoom land can raise your hand too. What's plot? Go ahead, Bella, tell us some more.
Plot is a series of events in the story.
The series of events in the story. And what's conflict? Conflict is kind of an important element. Paige?
Conflict is a problem that people have in the story that they have to face.
Right, it's the problem in the story that has to be faced and dealt with, right? Okay, so we've got characters, plot, conflict. What else do we look at to try to figure out the theme or the message? What other elements? Haley, turn your mic on.
Setting.
Okay, setting. And what is setting, Haley, you remember?
Setting is like the background of a story, or where it takes place.
Okay, so when you say background, you kind of mean where it takes place. Is setting just where it takes place or something else as well? You're half right. You need more information.
Gives you clues about the story, maybe.
Yes, but it's where and what?
It's where it is. I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, so turn your mic off and we'll get some help. Paige, help her out.
It's where and when the story takes place.
It's where and when the story takes place. Okay, so it's not just where it takes place, but it's also the time period that it takes place in. Good. And then the ones on the bottom of the page, what were those other elements that we need to pay attention to? Devin, do you remember? Oh, I said your name. Wake up. You don't remember? Okay. What? Anybody else remember? Maddie, you remember? No? Okay. Paige?
Description and symbol.
Description and symbol. So if the author is describing something and lots of details or repeating things or the ideas, then you should be paying attention to that. And symbols, metaphors, similes, whatever, you want to pay attention to those things too, because that's going to lead you to the message. Okay. So today I've posted a different document. And if you go, you can either share my screen or we can go here. It's just the Greyling questions. So we're going to open that up. Oh, I got to go in a different way. Sorry, my bad. Let me go back. Okay, so I've got to go. I wish that would be capitalized, but I mean alphabetized. Okay, so this document, it says after, well, we're not gonna watch the lesson on theme. We already did it, right? We did Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. We're gonna complete the activity below. We're gonna read a story called Greyling together by Jane Yolen, and then we're gonna answer the questions. Do you see here, right here, where it says story scan? You see where I am? Okay, that's the link to get you to the document that we've been using, okay? I don't want to click on that right now, but I want to take a look at what the document is and what questions you're going to have to answer.
The one thing is, you don't have access.
What do you mean you don't have access to
Let me
it?
try to click on it because you do not have access to this
No,
file.
I don't know. Yeah, look. Well, not the story thing.
Okay, can everybody try to click on the story scan? So you might have to click it and then click again. You might have to click it twice. So Bella, did you get in? You did?
No, I need access.
Okay, but everybody else is in?
I'm not.
Okay. All right, all right, all right. So there's another way to do this. Okay, so let's do this, and you might have to split your screen, but go back to classroom and the document that we used yesterday, the Greyling theme document, the one that we've been using all week, you can open that up and it's there and you have access there. I'm not the owner, so I don't even want to bother to try to figure out how to open that up. Okay, but it's there. Can everybody open it there? Okay, so way down on the bottom, so we worked on this on Monday, this page, right, with all the different elements. And then yesterday we read Roll of Thunder and we talked about that. And then we're going to do Greyling today. Okay, so we're gonna have to go back and forth. I do want to take a look at the questions. So if you remember, each of the elements were color coded in this activity for us, right? If you look at the questions and go back to the question, okay, oh my goodness. You'll notice that the questions are color coded. Okay. All right. So, is it good practice to read questions before? Yeah, sure. So let's just take a look at them. So the first one for setting right here, okay, says, what do the words once on a time suggest about the setting of the story? And it gives you the page number in the scanned document. The next question is about plot and conflict. What is the couple's main problem? The next question is about characters. What do his actions tell you about the fisherman? And then the next one is conflict. Why does the fisherman feel it is wrong not to let the child return to the sea? And then symbols. How does the color gray connect to the human baby? Connect the human baby to the baby seal that he was? You're going to love this story, by the way. Characters, what do you think the Greyling is longing for and why? So that's two parts to that question. Conflict, what force is the fisherman struggling against? Another conflict, how do these events intensify the conflict for the fisherman and the wife? Intensify means increase in depth or strength, right? Something intensifies, it gets bigger, okay? Descriptions and symbols. What might the loss of Greyling's clothes and skin represent? More descriptions. What does the description tell you about Greyling's feelings? And then characters. What have the fisherman and his wife learned from their experience? And then the big $1 million question, how would you state the theme? Which details gave you clues to the theme? Okay, so that's just to give you an idea of the questions that you're going to be dealing with when we are done reading the story. Okay, so let's go back to the story. I don't know what I did with it. Somewhere here. Here we go. I will tell you, this is one of my favorite stories that we read in the year. I love this story. I never tire of this story. I think it's a great story. I think it's got a great message. I think it's well written. If anybody ever read anything by Jane Yolen, the author Jane Yolen, if you've not read anything by her and you like this story, I would strongly suggest that you go to the library and get some Jane Yolen. Jane Yolen writes about important topics in a way kids can understand them. She's one of my favorite kid authors, and I enjoy her writing very much. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is I am going to read the story to us. Okay? So you need to be following along. And I'm gonna take my glasses off because I have a hard time reading the screen without it. Okay, so this says about this selection. To write this story, Jane, and I'm here on the underneath where it says independent practice. Everybody see where I am? I cannot highlight here unless I can highlight up there, but then the people won't be able to hear me with the mic. I know, I just said, Bella, I know that I can highlight on the big screen in the room. However, if I read it from up there, people hear, they can't hear the mic. So I have to be sitting here. It's not my favorite way to read and do stuff, but it's what I gotta do. Okay? All right, so I am up here underneath independent practice. It says about the selection. To write this story, Jane Yolen drew upon Scottish ballads and tales about strange characters called selkies or silkies. These are mythical seals that can take on human form by shrugging out of their skins. The wild, beautiful coast described in the story is much like the remote fishing villages and rocky coastlines where seals gather to rest and breed today. So, okay, I am not sure I am saying the Scottish word Selchies correctly. I say selkies. I have no idea if that's the right pronunciation, or silkies. If we know that this is about a mythical seal, what kind of story? No, it's a fictional story, but what's more specifically, what genre of fiction is it, Alex? Okay. Anybody out there in Zoom land know? Or want to take a guess? You're in Zoom land. I know, I meant there's people zooming in. Look at, Haley's not sure. I could tell by her face because she's going like this. I don't know. Bella?
Fantasy.
I would not call this a fantasy. Mythical. Well, you haven't read the story. That's why you're
Legend.
like a legend. It's folklore, right? Once upon a time. So it's sort of a folk tale, if you would. Okay. I think once you read it, Belle, you'll realize it's not so much fantasy as it is mythology and folklore. Okay. So already we sort of know the setting. What might the setting be of this story? Without even reading the story, just by the introduction, what would the setting be of the story? Alex?
Scotland.
Scotland, right? Okay, and it's going to take place on a coast, right? There's a fishing village, so it's going to be like by the ocean, right? All right, so here we go. This is called Greyling by Jane Yolen. Once upon a time, when wishes were aplenty, a fisherman and his wife lived by the side of the sea. All that they ate came out of the sea. Their hut was covered with the finest mosses that kept them cool in the summer and warm in the winter. And there was nothing they needed or wanted except a child. Okay, so we already talked about setting. So if we say, what are the words once upon a time suggest about the story? We kind of already talked about that. It's a fairy tale or folklore, right? And then already we know what the conflict is just in the first paragraph. What is the couple's problem? Haley, turn your mic on, hon.
They want a child.
Yeah, they want a child and they can't have one. So that's friction. That's a problem that they need to figure out how to deal with, right? Okay, next paragraph. Each morning when the moon touched down behind the water and the sun rose up behind the plains, the wife would say to the fisherman, "You have your boat and your nets and your lines, but I have no baby to hold in my arms." And again, in the evening, it was the same. She would weep and wail and rock the cradle that stood by the hearth, but year in and year out, the cradle stayed empty. Does anybody know what the hearth means? You think if they're living in a hut, I'm going to guess this isn't a modern day story, right? It's a once upon a time story. What would anybody know what the hearth is? No? I'm looking to see if anybody out in Zoom land knows what a hearth is. Okay, A hearth is the fireplace. It is the place, it's the thing around the fireplace. So you refer to the fireplace in the area, like, you know how like fireplaces or wood stoves have that like slate, usually flooring around it? That would be the hearth. Okay. Now the fisherman was also sad that they had no child, but he kept his sorrow to himself, so that his wife would not know his grief, and thus double her own. What's the word grief mean? There's a little one there. It has a footnote. What does it mean? Yeah, but what's the footnote say? Okay, so I am gonna have to step away, so I hope you guys out in Zoom land can hear me. So, we've talked about footnotes before. Could you kindly stop shouting out? I would be hoping if you could do that. Okay, so we've talked about footnotes before. Can people out in Zoom land hear me? Can you answer somebody out in Zoom land, turn your mic on, so you can hear me?
I can hear.
I can hear you.
I can hear you, but it's a little quiet, but I can still hear you.
Okay, we have to, I can't do that right now. All right, so remember footnotes. The number 1 up here refers to the footnote, the note at the foot of the page, at the bottom of the page. And it will tell you that grief means, everybody? Okay. They can't see the writing because I'm not sharing my screen, so why am I bothering you to do that? All right, never mind. All right. So I'm learning as we go with these newfangled things, children. So people in the room, guys, just told me that you could not see me writing on the big board. So that was fruitless. Anyway, if you could see the word grief up here, which I can't highlight for you, but where I just read it, there is also a number 1 that refers to it down at the bottom, the foot of the page. I'm going to start that paragraph over because I forgot where I left off. Now the fisherman was also sad that they had no child, but he kept his sorrow to himself so that his wife would not know his grief, and thus double her own. Indeed, he would leave the hut each morning with a breath of song and return each night with a whistle on his lips. His nets were full, but his heart was empty, yet he never told his wife. One sunny day, when the beach was a tan thread spun between sea and plain, the fisherman, as usual, went down to his boat. But this day he found a small gray seal stranded on the sandbar, crying for its own. The fisherman looked up the beach and down. He looked in front of him and behind, and he looked to the town on the great gray cliffs that sheered off into the sea. But there were no other seals in sight. What does the word sheared mean? I got the same 4 people raising their hands. Devin, what's the word sheared mean? Yeah, remember we're looking at footnotes. The last line on that page, on page 11, there's sheared and it has a number 2. You got to turn your mic on, Devin. I can't hear you. Do you see the word sheared in that paragraph, honey?
Devin, you're muted.
And then do you see the footnote at the bottom? Okay, what does sheared mean?
Cut off sharply.
To cut off sharply. So have you ever seen pictures of like where the land is right up against the sea, but it like drops off? So it's like a plateau and then it shears right off. It's just very sharp. Shearing sheep, to cut off sharply, right? Okay, good. All right. So he finds this little gray seal and he looks up and down the beach and he can't find any other seals around. Okay. You could turn your mic off, Dev. Thank you. Thank you. Well, the questions, no, we're reading the story. So he shrugged his shoulders and took off his shirt. Then he dipped it into the water and wrapped the seal pup carefully in its folds. You have no father and you have no mother, he said, and I have no child. So you shall come home with me. And the fisherman did no fishing that day, but brought the seal pup wrapped in his shirt straight home to his wife. When she saw him coming home early with no shirt on, the fisherman's wife ran out of the hut, fear riding in her heart. Then she looked wonderingly at the bundle which he held in his arms. It's nothing, he said, but a seal pup I found stranded in the shallows and longing for its own. I thought we could give it love and care until it was old enough to seek its kin. What's kin? Family. Good. The fisherman's wife nodded and took the bundle. Then she uncovered the wrapping and gave a loud cry. Nothing, she said. You call this nothing? The fisherman looked. Instead of a seal lying in the folds, there was a strange child with great gray eyes and silvery gray hair, smiling up at him. The fisherman wrung his hands. It's a selkie, he cried. I have heard of them. They are men upon the land and seals in the sea. I thought it was but a tale. Then he shall remain a man upon the land, said the fisherman's wife, clasping the child in her arms, for I shall never let him return to the sea. Never, agreed the fisherman, for he knew how his wife had wanted a child, and in his secret heart he wanted one too, yet he felt somehow it was wrong. Okay, turn your mic on there, Paige, and say that out loud to everybody.
Because they took it away from the family.
Right, he's feeling bad because he knows that he's taking the seal away from its family out in the ocean, right? So that part of the story is highlighted in pink, and the question is, why does the fisherman feel it's wrong not to let the child return to the sea? So why would it be wrong? Give yourself a moment to think, and then come up with an idea. Normally, I would have you talk to a partner right now, but I can't do that. Devin, what do you think? Turn your mic on.
He thinks it's wrong because the seal had a life.
Yeah, the seal had a life before as a seal, or any other reasons why he might be wrong. Val, turn your mic on.
The ocean was his habitat. That's where he grew up.
Okay, so the ocean is his habitat. That's where he grew up. Any other ideas? These are all good ideas. Anything else? We good? You would probably take it too. Haley, what's your idea? Turn your mic on, hon.
Maybe because they don't know what the seal knows how to, like, maybe it was too little, and when it took away from its mother, maybe it doesn't know how to swim or anything, so it may not know how to do anything.
Yeah, maybe because it's a baby seal, a very small seal, it might not know how to be a seal, but that's not the question, hon. The question says, why does the fisherman feel it's wrong not to let the seal go back, the child go back to the sea? Okay, but that's a good point. The seal might be so young that it doesn't know how to be a seal. Okay. Kaden A out in Zoom land, did you have your hand up a while ago? You turned your video off, I can't tell.
No.
Oh, okay, I thought you had your hand up. Paige, did you want to say one more thing before we move on?
That just reminds me, there's this like neighborhood cat and I really want it, but I won't take it because I'm afraid it's gonna go away from its family.
Okay,
I really want it.
but you really want it.
I really want it.
Showing restraint. Okay, so here comes the symbol part. Let's see what it says. We shall call him Greyling, said the fisherman's wife, for his eyes and hair are the color of a storm-coming sky. Greyling, though he has brought sunlight into our home. What's another reason why they might call him Greyling? What's another reason why they might call him Greyling? What is he really? Or when he's a seal, he's a gray seal, right? So the color gray becomes a very huge symbol in this story, okay? And that's basically the question. Is your mic on? I know, it's a pain in the neck.
Because his eyes are bright gray and the silver hair.
Yeah, so that if you look at those story elements and if you remember literary devices, right? The idea of repetition, that color gray comes up a lot. He's a gray seal, he has gray hair, he has gray eyes. It's symbolic, right? You're using repetition. So remember when we read about, what to pay attention to, you pay attention to things that are repeated because they have meaning. Okay, all right. Second paragraph on the page. And though they still lived by the sea of the water in a hut covered with mosses that kept them warm in the winter and cool in the summer, the boy Greyling was never allowed into the sea. You should be following along with your eyes on the page. He following along with your eyes on the screen. Third paragraph down. Okay. He grew from a child to a lad, a little boy. He grew from a lad to a young man. He gathered driftwood for his mother's hearth and searched the tide pools for shells for her mantle. The mantle is the thing above the fireplace, right? He mended his father's nets and tended his father's boats. But though he often stood by the shore or high in the town on the great gray cliffs, looking and longing and grieving in his heart for what he did not really know, he never went into the sea. So that one's highlighted in purple. What do you think Grayling is longing for and why?
The sea. He's literally spelling it out for us.
Okay, so he's longing for the sea. Bella, good. Can you turn your mic up? And then Paige, I don't know if anybody heard her, but she said something about he's like the seal of Moana. So she's making a connection. That's good. Alex, what were you going to say?
He's longing for his parents.
He's longing for his parents of the sea, right? It sounds like he has a pretty decent life with the couple, right? But it sounds like he doesn't even know what he's longing for. Because do you think he knows that he was a seal? Probably not. If he was just a little baby. Okay, next paragraph. Then one wind wailing morning. Ooh, one wind wailing. What is that? That's something more specific than repetition. Say, okay, so Carl said alliteration. Good. Then one wind wailing morning, just 15 years from the day that Grayling had been found, a great storm blew up suddenly in the north. It was such a storm as had never been seen before. The sky turned nearly black, and even the fish had trouble swimming. The wind pushed huge waves onto the shore. The waters gobbled up the little hut on the beach, and Grayling and the fisherman's wife were forced to flee to the town high on the great, great cliffs. There, they looked down at the rolling, boiling sea. Far from shore, they spied the fisherman's boat, its sails flapping like the wings of a wounded gull, and clinging to the broken mast was the fisherman himself, sinking deeper with every wave. The mast is the hole at the center of the, like a sail ship, you know, a sailboat. Okay, that's the mast. So that whole thing is highlighted in pink because this is part of the conflict. Because now the fisherman is having a conflict with nature, right? There's a huge storm and he's out on his boat and he has to have this conflict with nature called man versus nature, human versus nature. The fisherman's wife gave a terrible cry. Will no one save him? She called to the people of the town who had gathered on the edge of the cliff. Will no one save my own dear husband, who is all of life to me? But the townsmen looked away. There was no man there who dared risk his life in that sea, even to a drowning soul. Will no one at all save him? She cried out again. Let the boy go, said one old man, pointing at Grayling with a stick. He looks strong enough. But the fisherman's wife clasped Grayling in her arms and held his ears with her hands. She did not want him to go into the sea. She was afraid he would never return. So now the wife is having conflict, right? Does she send Grayling out to save her husband? Because he probably will be able to save him because he's a seal. Like she knows he's going to turn into a seal, right? But she's afraid that the child will never come home. Right, what do you do? So then it goes, so then, will no one save my own dear heart, cried the fisherman's wife for a third and last time. But shaking their heads, the people of the town edged to their houses and shut their doors and locked their windows and set their backs to the ocean and their faces to the fires that glowed in every hearth. I will save him, mother, cried Grayling, or die as I try. And before she could tell him no, he broke from her grasp and dived from the top of the great cliffs down, down, down into the tumbling sea. He will surely sink, whispered the women as they ran from their warm fires to watch. He will certainly drown, called the men as they took down their spyglasses from the shelves. They gathered on the cliffs and watched the boy dive down into the sea. As Greyling disappeared beneath the waves, little fingers of foam tore at his clothes. They snatched his shirt and his pants and his shoes and sent them bubbling away to the shore. And as Greyling went deeper beneath the waves, even his skin seemed to slough off till he swam free at last in the sleek gray coat of a great gray seal. So slough means to be cast off. It sort of like falls away, right? The Selkie had returned to the sea, but the people of the town did not see this. All they saw was the diving boy disappearing under the waves, and then, farther out, a large seal swimming toward the boat that wallowed in the sea, that rolled and tilted in the sea. The sleek gray seal, with no effort at all, eased the fishermen to the shore, though the waves were wild and bright with foam. And then, with a final salute, it turned its back on the land and headed joyously out to sea. So the description tells you if he's going joyously back to sea, how's Greyling feeling at that moment? Happy, sure. The fisherman's, he's like happy to be back in his element, right? The fisherman's wife hurried down to the sand, and behind her followed the people of the town. They searched up the beach and down, but they did not find the boy. A brave son, said the men when they found his shirt, for they thought he was certainly drowned. A very brave son, said the women when they found his shoes, for they thought him lost for sure. Is he really gone? Asked the fisherman's wife of her husband when at last they were alone. Yes, quite gone, the fisherman said to her. Gone where his heart calls, gone to the great wide sea. And though my heart grieves at his leaving, it tells me this way is best. The fisherman's wife sighed, and then she cried, but at last she agreed that perhaps it was best, for he is both man and seal, she said. And though we cared for him for a while, now he must care for himself. And she never cried again. So once more they lived alone by the sea, by the side of the sea, in a new little hut, which was covered with mosses to keep them warm in the winter and cool in the summer. Yet once a year, a great gray seal is seen at night near the fisherman's home, and the people in the town talk of it and wonder. But seals do come to the shore, and men do go to the sea, and so the townfolk do not dwell upon it very long. But it is no ordinary seal. It is Greyling himself come to tell his parents tales of the lands that lie far beyond the waters, and to sing them songs of the wonders that lie far beneath the sea. Okay, so we are almost out of time. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left. I didn't stop at the end because I wanted to make sure we finished this story today. So the one thing by the characters there, and one of the things I think on the chart that said, do the characters change from the beginning to the end? Have the fisherman and his wife change from the beginning to the end in what they think about what to do with Greyling? Sure they have, right? Yeah. Okay, so they know that this might be a place. And does Greyling come back to them? What does that show about his character? Okay, so he's loyal. All right. And then it says, how would you state the theme of the story? Which details gave you clues to the theme? So we're not going to have time to talk about that today, but that is like a key thing tomorrow. So tomorrow, the folks that are in the room, you need to zoom in. And the folks that are in class, we will, okay, could you put Rudolph away there, Haley? Because I'm trying to give directions here. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to break you up into breakout rooms, and then you're going to do the questions together. The questions should lead you to what the theme is. There is no one theme to the story. Like in many stories, there is no one theme, okay? All right, so anybody out at home have any questions for me at this point? Okay, then I am going to end the meeting. Did somebody chime in here? And just remember that you do have your quote paper due Friday if you haven't done it yet. Tomorrow we'll do some classwork with Greyling again. Did you guys like that story?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Bye.
bye guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. End the meeting. Where is my meeting? Oh, that's because I'm in the wrong thing. Stop sharing. End the meeting.